Welcome to the second season of Small Venue Music. We are back and ready to share more music and more stories from the best artists and venues in the Richmond music scene. Get ready for some amazing performances, intimate conversations, and behind-the-scenes insights from all the people who make our local music scene so special. We really hope you tune in each episode to learn more about the amazing music made right here in our hometown of Richmond, Virginia. On our first episode of the season, we'll be welcoming Tyler Meacham to the show. Tyler is an incredible singer and songwriter based right here in Richmond, Virginia. She's published a robust catalog of incredible original music that's impressed fans and critics alike. She's recently released a beautiful new song called Dream House. We're excited to learn more about the touching evolution of the song and listen to her perform an amazing and intimate version of it live. We really think you'll enjoy getting to know Tyler, and we really hope you enjoy the show.
All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone to what is the first episode of the second season of Small Venue Music. We took the first quarter off to work on the Avery Walls Music Festival, but we are back and we are here at Crazy Rooster Brewing, an amazing brewery and music venue here in Powhatan. And I'm so excited for our first artist of the season, who is Richmond's own Tyler Meacham. And I tell you, this couldn't be a better time to have this show because just 3 days ago, Tyler released a brand new single called Dream House. And I couldn't think of a better way of opening up our season than by having her play the song for us. So thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I found my dream house, but someone else got to it first. Kinda funny how that works. Up the old brick walkway to the pool house in the rear, I can see my life right here. There's a garden and a great big kitchen, and the walls so thick with history they try to steal it. All I want is to lock myself away with you. If only dreams came true. Takes her turn, and a basement down below to do my work. In the hallway, hang up all your pictures, all the moments I forgot to smile but captured in time. All I want is to spend another night with you. Came true. Try to run the numbers. What could I afford to keep or to lose? Doesn't wanna love you. All I know is that I do. I think I found my dream house, but the walls are caving in like a project that won't end. But there's a garden and a great big kitchen, and the walls so full of memories you can't unfeel it. All I want is to spend another life with you. If only dreams came true.
All right, welcome back, Tyler. That is amazing. And I love Dream House. It's such an amazing song. And I have so many questions I want to ask you about it. And before we do, though, I just wanted to say a special thanks to Crazy Rooster for hosting us and everybody here. It is such an amazing location and such a great place to see live music. And I love the beer here, and I will be drinking the Crow and Midnight Oatmeal Stout. So how's that for product placement?
That's great. It's perfect.
Yeah. So, and hey, they're having a 4-year anniversary here on April 18th. So folks, please stop by and celebrate with all the folks here. So let's get to it. I would love, if it's okay with you, I know there's such a personal song for you, and I'd love for you to share some of the backstory of kind of what went into writing it.
Yeah, definitely. So, a year ago, February of last year, so I've struggled with cancer and loss in my family for the last few years, like kind of since COVID. It's been just an onslaught of really hard stuff. And that's not to say that's, not a shared experience. I'm sure a lot of other people have had things like that happen too, but things got better. And then at the beginning of last year, all in the month of February, my mom's cancer came back. My cousin, who was 34 at the time, her cancer came back within almost the same week. They got their scans. And I was just really having a hard time, dealing. So I decided I wanted to buy a house. And so I downloaded Zillow. I started, getting into that and, looking at all the prices. And it was just more than I could really manage. The dream started to feel unrealistic. And I thought about some friends that had bought a house before the pandemic. And it was gorgeous, this old brick house. And I thought, I think I found my dream house, but someone else got to it first. And that was the lyric that came to me immediately. And I was like, I could write a song about that, thinking that I was going to write a song about a house or something. And then the more that I got into it and started processing as I was writing, I realized that it was much more about my grief than it was ever about real estate. And just kind of realizing that some of the hopes I had, for, cancer to just end or people to just live forever, those hopes and dreams weren't really real to me anymore. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
The thing I loved about it, and it's one of those songs where every listen you do, you're like, oh, there's so much more to this than at first glance. And my reaction was, wow, it's such incredible, lyrical depth.
Thank you.
And I had a question for you, because one of the things I noticed about it was I actually had heard the backstory from when you've shared it with others. But this song, it's written in such a way that it can kind of be about anyone's loss.
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
Honestly, yeah, I think with everything I write, it's kind of intentional, because I know that when I'm writing music, one of the things that I think about is of course, my experience. But my hope is that when I put the song out, someone else hears it and says, oh yeah, me too. Because that's kind of how we're all connected anyway. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because the first time I listened to it, I'm like, this is about a house. I'm trying to figure it out. And then I had it's about romantic loss. Because you can kind of hear that in the lyrics. And then I listened to it a few more times, it's just about loss and grieving.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, the best songs to me are always the ones where you discover new things in them every time you listen to them.
Yeah.
So, it really is touching.
Oh, thank you.
And I had, I know it's only been out, a few days now. Have you had any early reactions, either from fans or even, I don't know, from critics, if there are such a thing?
Yeah, there are critics. No, everyone's been really, really kind about it. And for me, it's definitely a shift in the kind of music that I put out before. My last record came out 2 years ago, and I want to say it was a lot more optimistic. Still a lot of self-honesty involved, but maybe with more of a positive spin on everything and kind of a nice, like, wrapped up happy ending. And this is the first time I've really come out and said, like, really personal stuff in a song, beyond the surface level kind of thing. I'm sure there are people that would disagree with me on that, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. And across the board, I've had people just message me and say, you know, I really relate to this, or it's just, you know, a beautiful song. I mean, all sorts of stuff, and have definitely read some reviews that, there was one review that I really appreciated, and he said, I listened to her first EP years ago and I just didn't like it. It felt like an artist who was wearing someone else's clothes. And years later, that was 2018 when that album came out, or 2019. I should probably know what year that came out. I think it was 2019. And I do feel that. Property. Yeah, Property. Yeah. And I do feel that about myself, you know, years later, having kind of grown up a little bit since that. But he basically went on to say that listening to Dream House was like a completely different experience, and something that felt like this is the person in a song. And that is how I feel about it too. So, yeah.
Have you had anyone share like deeply personal stories? Not that you need to share them, but like that kind of said, this reminded me of a particular tough time in my life.
Yeah, I've gotten that more when I play it live, because I've been playing it live for the last year, and different settings. And one of the things that I've experienced is a lot of people, because I'm an open book. When I'm on stage, I'll say, like, this is a song about my mom's cancer. Like, I'll just say it, and some people might get uncomfortable, but there's always somebody after the fact that comes up and says, like, thank you for sharing that. Like, my, you know, wife or, you know, uncle or brother, whoever has been through that, or I'm going through that currently, and like, no one talks about that. So thank you for saying, like, just acknowledging it, because it's this thing that is so icky and terrifying. So that's kind of the main reactions I've gotten have always been like, thanks for just like looking at it and like facing it, you know?
How does it make you feel when people do that? Do you feel like gratitude for it, or is it uncomfortable, or is it?
I've never been great at accepting like compliments.
Yeah.
Like, I like to kind of turtle into myself.
You better get you ready.
Yeah. I'm getting better at it, because I know that, like, yes, I am grateful. And the most that I can say is just thank you, and be grateful for like the fact that I have the ability to do this and share in that way. I usually in the moment will be, you know, really glad to just connect with somebody else. And then I'll continue to think about it. Those interactions never leave me. Like, I can go back through a list of them over the years, depending on, you know, different situations, and they never leave me. So, yeah.
Do you want another one? Well, there's always a little bit of you know, how much do people want to hear about how other people interpret or touched by their songs? And it's, you know, I just love when people share like what a song means to them, and when I heard it, particularly when I learned a little more of the backstory of it, I was thinking about my own mom.
Yeah.
And, you know, I lost my mom probably 6 years ago. And without getting into the whole story, I had a moment with my mom right before, like not long before she passed, where she had Alzheimer's sort of but there was one moment in time when she became loose, like back. And I sort of had that moment where like we could actually reminisce and say goodbye, and all of it was there in the moment. And when I was listening to your song and there was that line, I just want to spend another life with you, it connects to like I had one moment where I was like, oh, I got that little moment, and I wish I had another life for it. So now whenever I listen to it, I go, oh, it so reminds me of my mom.
Thank you.
And I so appreciate you writing it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that line in particular was the hardest one for me to write, because it's how I feel about so many people in my life. More recently, I just lost my cousin, who was 35, in the beginning of January, and I'm turning 30 this year. We aren't that far apart in age, and she just had her dream house. She just got married. All of these things that you know are in the song. I wrote it a year ago, and now it's like this very real, very tangible emotion where I do wish I had another life with someone that I love. And Yeah, well, I found it like the perfect lyric. Thank you.
On the process of writing it, you sort of went together. I was curious, is it the kind of song where it all came to you at one time, or was it a labor to kind of get it all out?
Yeah, it was definitely all at once. I have this weird thing that happens if I'm around, I don't think I've ever said this anywhere, but if I'm around some sort of running water, whether it's like the dishwasher, the shower, whatever, that's when I start getting melodies. Like, I know that's bizarre.
Yeah.
So that's when I had the lyrics in mind for the first verse, and I just kind of started singing it and recorded it on my phone as an idea. And so there's just like water running in the background. But yeah, I realized what it was going to be about when I got to the lyric, "If Only Dreams Came True," in the first verse. And I was like, okay, I think this isn't about real estate, and that's where I started, and it's not where it's going. And songwriting is always like that for me. It's like I'm learning through the process. So this one, it felt like this nagging thing. And I've had this experience before where I just need it to be done. And so I think I sat down on my floor in my living room and just got the rest out as fast as I could.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was, I mean, I really didn't change much. And that's a rare thing. Like, most songs are more of the kind of, you got to work at it. And it still is like frustrating and can be annoying as you feel this like melody stuck with you, but no lyrics. But this was just got out really fast.
Wow. Yeah, I guess sometimes these things happen, right? You get in that state of flow. And
yeah.
How about the process of recording? Did the arrangements and everything come in fully formed to the studio? Did you have a lot of collaboration with other folks to kind of get the actual recording done?
This one was really different because typically, it is more collaborative. My partner, who we have a house together and a studio in our house, is usually there for all of it, and we usually map out like what we want in a demo. And this is the first time that didn't happen. This was kind of like, I got to get this song recorded. I keep trying to record it at home, and I am too hung up on details. So a friend of ours has a studio called Go West. And he just recently built like a custom space. And we went out there and just did the guitar and the piano part. So all we had was like, okay, the guitar is going to sound like this. I know that. The piano's really weird and like very kind of like picked notes at random.
I noticed that.
And we also for the production nerds out there, we taped the felt with some painter's tape to make it really muted sounding. So that's all we had was like, this is the sound and a scratch vocal. And then I think for the next month or so, I sat in the studio at home and just started layering. And I added strings and all sorts of other stuff in the box, as we say, basically just like in Logic. And the song became what it was. And then the finishing touch, my guitarist came over for our Christmas party and brought a bunch of ukuleles with him as gifts. And so the bass is actually a ukulele bass that when I heard it, I was like, this sounds like an upright bass. So Chip recorded that as kind of the finishing touch. So
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, now I'll listen to it differently.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
I have a couple questions on maybe more the business side of it. You decided to release this, I mean, you've released an EP, you've released a full album, you decided to release it as a single. I don't really understand how any of this works nowadays, and I was curious, is it just sort of hey, it's like, I just want to get it out to the world? Was there ever a debate about let's batch them up and do an EP, or what made you decide to go single, and is there any?
I would say there's an ongoing debate inside, trying to figure out what I'm doing. I wanted the song out, and I can get really impatient. I'm like, I put a record out 2 years ago. I need to put new music out. And, I just started with one song. It's kind of my thought is like, I don't really know how any of this works now. I mean, you could randomly have a song catch in the algorithm, and now you're on tour. Yeah. And so it's like, if singles are the way to do it, eventually this will be an album. I have an album of material. So
you'll put it, repackage it back up at some point.
Just as far as when, and I don't know.
I was wondering because you know enough about albums are dead, and I'm like, well, not for me, they're not. I still love the feel of. Yeah. Yet I can see you have a song, you want to get it out to the world, let's put it out now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you describe all that's going into promoting it?
Yeah.
And like I would have no idea where to start.
There's a lot of work.
I bet.
There's a lot of stuff people don't realize that goes into all of it. I do pretty much everything. So I send
That answers one of my questions.
a million emails.
Yeah.
Chip helps me as well. We're kind of a team. And yeah, I contacted hundreds of press contacts and hundreds of radio stations and submitted my music online on these various places where they give them to curators. And yeah, it's like a constant churning like wheel of all these different things that you can possibly be doing to promote your music. So yeah, there's a lot of work constantly. I designed all the graphics for it and just kind of try to do everything. I'm always been really creative, and my kind of side job is like in the video post-production and graphic design world.
Yeah.
So I have the skills, so I just kind of use them to my advantage. Yeah.
Do you feel like it's just more is better?
It's like casting a wide net, I think. And it is always a crapshoot. Like, I do not know if it's going to be worth the amount of hours I put in. I hope that it is.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Do you enjoy it? Sometimes, yes, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it's not my favorite thing to do, but I'm someone that can hyperfixate on a task. And when I'm really in the zone and it's like email after email after email, it feels good. At least it's satisfying in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. I can only imagine how much work it is. Particularly because I was going to ask you if you're doing it all by yourself, which is like, what is it like to be an independent artist and all the work has, never mind writing the songs and actually performing, but.
Yeah, it can be really.
So you released it on at least every platform I'm aware of. Is there any strategy to that? And do you have any preferences on where people consume it?
Yes, I have preferences.
Come on.
I think it's so hard. So you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, but unfortunately Spotify isn't feeding artists anymore.
Yeah.
As of this week, if your song doesn't reach 1,000 streams within a year, you don't get paid. You get nothing.
Yeah.
And that's really frustrating. So if there's a way you can support music, whether it's by buying it or supporting on Bandcamp or even on Tidal, like I would look up and try to see like which streaming service or platform is the most equitable for artists, because the industry more and more and more is kind of cutting corners and finding ways for like independent artists, songwriters, and honestly like performers on the gigging side of things to just not really get paid what they're worth. So yeah.
So if people were watching and you were to say, if you consumed it, go here?
I would say Bandcamp. I mean, you can buy it there, and they have a pretty solid app that you can listen to music on. Yeah. So
I really love the cover picture.
Thanks.
What's the backstory?
That's my grandmother. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really been like, without exaggeration, the beginning of this year has been really difficult. So I lost my cousin, and then a month later, I lost my grandmother. And her name was Granny Pat, but her full name was Cleopatra. She was a queen, just was. And I come from a family that's like a big family of like half Greek people. That's where the name comes from. But she passed recently, and we were going through her stuff, and I found that photo of her, and we have no idea who the guy is. Really? No clue. And it's like he's just looking at her like just so taken with her. Yeah, he's adoring photo. Yeah. And the background is like this empty house. And so I asked her sister about it, my Aunt Shirley, and she's like, I have no idea who that is. I think it was a blind date. I think they were set up. Wow. So there was some photographer.
Yeah, good photographer for a blind date.
And there's other photos from that day, but that one in particular, my grandmother is just kind of looking, there's something about her expression in that photo and then the way that the guy is looking at her that feels like the song to me. It feels like some sort of disconnect. Yeah. And maybe in his face, he sees all of these hopes and dreams. And I know that my grandmother didn't end up with him, and no one knows who he is. So, and that kind of does kind of call back to that aspect of maybe there's love involved, maybe there's a romantic relationship involved. And, I'm glad to suggest that with the cover art, that it's not like, because grief isn't just about people dying. It's about losing things that are important to you, no matter how big or small they might seem.
That's why, I mean, I repeat it, but that's why I love the song, because I was like, it just speaks to all forms of loss and grief.
Yeah.
I saw you did a submission of the song to Tiny Desk.
Yeah.
And I love Tiny Desk, but I have no idea how that works. What's the backstory on the process for doing that?
They have a contest they do every year.
Okay.
And that was my submission this time around, was a way more stripped back approach to it. A lot of people will get their whole band in a room.
Yeah.
And perform behind a desk. But yeah, you put it out on the internet and you submit to them and hope someone likes it.
Do they decline, or do they only accept? So does it go into kind of the ether and you don't know what happens?
Well, they're trying to find one winner. So there's going to be a Tiny Desk contest winner at some point. I don't know if it's been announced yet. And there's probably like hundreds of thousands of entries, honestly. So the winner gets to come and do an actual Tiny Desk in DC, and then they'll go on like a little tour and just kind of be positioned for, some sort of success, whether it's like with the right connections in the industry or whatever, exposure, all of that. And then they highlight their favorites, and they pick, every week they'll do a podcast or a live stream where they showcase.
So is it still in process right now, this? Or are you kind of in the waiting, or? I
think it's still in process, but honestly, I'm a little bit, did I miss? I don't know.
Okay.
Like maybe I've maybe missed it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I loved the video.
Thank you.
It had a really nice vibe to
Thanks.
it. And I was curious, where's the house? Because it's it was a cool setting. And I was wondering, I didn't think it was your home.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
So, Chip and I went to Asheville at the beginning of February and stayed in this Airbnb. It's a 117-year-old carriage house on someone's property. So I actually booked the Airbnb before I thought about making the video, because I thought we were just doing a getaway. And then I picked up a gig, and then it became more of a creative trip. That's kind of our style, though. Chip and I are always working on stuff together and collaborating. And so then I started looking at pictures of it, and I was like, well, that would be cool. And it's tiny. I mean, the room is no more than kind of space from that wall to where I am. It's really small space. And so we just kind of came up with it and spent one of our days of our trip filming it. To me, it really captured the feeling of the song, and we'll put a link to it in the show notes for this so people can watch it. But I loved it. I think I saw that before I heard the actual release, and I'm like, oh, this is a great song, because it was very stripped down. It's probably going to be a hard question for you, but how you define success for a release? Either in small dreams or big dreams for a single? That is a hard one, because we're so exposed to numbers constantly. I can pull up my phone right now and look at the Spotify app and see how many people are currently listening, or how many people have listened so far. And the dream is that you get plucked out of the obscurity of the millions of songs that get submitted to Spotify and put on an editorial playlist, and then all of a sudden you have all these listeners. But that's what you want to happen. But then what really ends up happening is usually you have to kind of accumulate over time and find the right positioning. It's hard to tell with Dreamhouse right now. I'm not sure if it is a success.
It's still early.
It's still early. Yeah. I feel good about. For me, I feel good about the song. And when I listen to the song, I don't hear anything I would change. I think this is exactly what I wanted it to be, and it's rare for me. I can listen to anything in my back catalog of music and think I would change that, but I don't feel that way about this song, and so there's some success there for sure.
Well, I think it's an amazing song.
Thanks.
And I encourage everybody who's watching
go listen to it.
Listen to it. Please go listen to it. For folks who don't know you, you have in my opinion, obviously I'm biased, a very deep catalog of amazing songs. And I was wondering if I could tempt you to play a couple more for us.
Of course.
So if we could take a quick break, you go set up and play a few. Awesome. Thanks so much. All right, we'll be right back.
Okay. This song's called Better Than I Used to Be. It's on my last record, Into the Fray. And it's about anxiety and not being a perfectionist. Try my best not to be one.
Can the few be over? 'Cause I feel like I'm tabloid news. Lost our composure, and every word misshapes the truth. Just when I start to settle down on certain solid ground, the worst of me comes out. It will take some time to sink it, fight off all overthinking, and it will take some time for me, but I'm better than I used to be. I'm better than I used to be. I'm better than so I'm never lonely. There's a voice that tries to keep me safe, but it comes on strongly, yeah. Threading lines with push pins in my brain. Oh, and all that inner critic wants is to beat me to the punch, so I'll safely go untouched. It will take some time to sink it, fight off all overthinking, and it will take some time for me, but I'm better than I used to be. I'm better than I used to be. I'm better than I used to be. Head on colliding, but at least I'm trying. Head on colliding, but at least I'm trying now. Head on colliding, but at least I'm trying now. At least I'm trying now. Yeah. 'Cause it will take some time to sink it, fight off all overthinking, and it will take some time for me, but I'm better than I used to be. I'm better than I used to be. It will take some time to sink it, fight off all overthinking, and it will take some time for me, but I'm better than I used to be. I'm better than I used to be. I'm better than I used to be. Better than I used to be.
Thank you. Want one more? Cool. All right, so by request, this one is called Denver. I haven't played this one in a while, so fingers crossed. Long lost love.
Maybe you should come on back to me. If you waited, baby, you know where I'll be. Maybe you could try to call my phone again, and I'll answer it like you're my only friend. Both of us are good at living in the past. Both of us were good at thinking we will last. Now that we've moved along and years have flown, it's all I want to know. 'Cause you found a girl who loves you like a fool. While I'm chasing dreams, you're following the rules. Yeah, you had a girl who loved you like a fool. Did you find yourself in Denver with the wolves? I hope you found yourself in Denver with the wolves. No, I don't want to talk about you much. Don't want to come across as out of touch. Because it's been a while, I'm waiting in suspense for someone else to hold the same significance. Ooh, it's all I want to know, it's all I want to know. 'Cause you found a girl who loves you like a fool. While I'm chasing dreams, you're following the rules. Yeah, you had a girl who loved you like a fool. Did you find yourself in Denver with the wolves? I hope you found yourself in Denver with the wolves. Yeah. Yeah, I don't picture you walking in the room. I don't want it back, that heartbreaking thing that we had. 'Cause you found a girl who loves you like a fool. You're replacing dreams and I'm breaking all the rules. Yeah, you had a girl who loved you like a fool. Did you find yourself in Denver with the wolves? I hope you found yourself in Denver with the wolves. Yeah, it's all I want to know, you're all I want.
All right, we are back, Tyler. That was amazing. Thank you so much for doing that, and I really appreciate you taking a request there for the second song. It's one of my favorites. I really want to talk about a lot of your catalog, but before we get to that, I would love to hear a little bit about when and how you decided to become like a dedicated professional musician, because I have to believe that is it's a difficult decision and not for the faint of heart.
No.
So can you kind of go back in time and say,
Yeah.
hey, here's what happened where you really kind of went for it?
My tongue-in-cheek response is like, oh, I decided today again to keep doing it. It is definitely a constant.
Yeah.
You're reassessing. So yeah, when I graduated college, I went to school for film and got a film degree and, lived in LA for a little bit, did an internship. And then my first job out of college was my dream job. I wanted to work for Disney. I ended up in Imagineering in the theme parks. So I moved to Florida like 5 days after graduation and started working. And I remember having a meeting with an executive. And she said, if you want to do this, if you want to be like a director or whatever, here are all the steps you need to take to climb the ladder. And eventually you'll get there. And they were putting this life in front of me that was like, you can do this. You can have, this is your career now. Welcome. You did it. You've made it. And I started experiencing really deep depression at the time. And I wasn't playing music. I was barely writing. I started writing a little bit. That was always something that was part of my life, but it wasn't like the thing that I felt comfortable pursuing as a career, because it's not like a safe choice, which is, now that I think about it, truly, film wasn't really a safe choice either. But it felt safer to say I have a degree in this and I can go work for this big company, call my mom and be like, I have, benefits and
Right.
I can pay my rent. So over time, I kind of started feeling like this wasn't right, and I didn't know what was right. I ended up leaving the job and moving back home here in Richmond and with my parents. I felt like a total failure, and I started calling my friends that I felt maybe could help. And a lot of them kept saying the same thing, and it was like, I just don't understand why you're not doing music. Like, what's going on with that? And so I remember I was like, okay, I'll write some songs. I'll see what happens. I'll post them on the internet. Started a Patreon account where I would post a video every month that was a new demo. Started playing open mics. Those were terrifying. I was so scared. I remember the first time my knees were like shaking, getting up on a stage to play 2 songs.
Really?
Yeah, I was terrified. It mattered to me. I started to realize like this feeling is like, this is what matters to me. And I ran away from it for a while, but over time I just kept kind of playing and starting to book my own gigs and met other musicians and formed a band, and here we are.
Can you share any of the like high moments and low moments you've been through?
Like in terms of like music in general?
I guess
just
it's
life?
like, it's just sort of the when you're trying to make it as a musician, I have to think there's like here's that moment when you're like, yes, it's all coming together, and here's the moment I'm like, oh, I'm going to quit. And I mean, you kind of headed, you're just like every day is a recommit, but.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of some shows that have really felt like, this is awesome. This is exactly what I want to be doing, especially playing live. Like that, for me, has gone from being a struggle with myself and my anxiety to being something that feels like where I'm the most at home.
Yeah.
So I would say like one of the lower moments was just kind of like having to hit the reset button right after my first like full length album came out, and had my band shifted a lot. We lost people, and it felt like a time when I really needed everybody. And I just kind of was like totally taken aback by that. And that was definitely probably.
I was going to ask you about that because I read I think it's the Auricular article about it, and because I listened to Into the Fray, and I'm like, it's such a great album. But I came to it later after the re-release, and I read the article, and I had like, what the hell happened to this poor woman? Like on the
it was rough. I mean, it was a rough time. I think for me, one of the things, because I have this perspective a little bit more now, I just kind of assumed that what we had was gonna be like it. And a lot of things can change that, and the details of it aren't really like, important anymore to me. Like really to any of it, it's just things had to change, and it was never always going to be the same group of people or the same sound even. And I think I was still kind of discovering like who I was as a person and an artist and all those other things at the time. But it was really jarring, and it did happen at a time when like I wanted to put every bit of energy into the fray, and that's why I ended up re-releasing it and kind of tacking on a few more songs. And
it's funny because it's part of the reason I wanted to talk about it, because I came to it later, and I'm like, it's such a great album. Yeah. And I saw it, it was nominated for the Newland Award, and I'm like, I get why. And then I read the article, I saw the re-release, and I'm like, it didn't seem like it might have gotten the full fair shot. I hope there's still like a oomph in it that I want from people. I want everyone to hear it.
Thank you. I want everyone to hear it too.
Yeah, it's really good.
Definitely went through a period of some struggle there, and came out the other side, I think, better, honestly. Like as a writer, artist, everything, just got some really good songs out of it, and I think everyone is where they're supposed to be.
It's funny because I listened to it later, and then when I read the article, and I think the song was probably written before then, but when I hear Better Than I Used to Be, that's the story I have in my head.
Oh, really?
It's like, that must, but the timing might not have actually been that way. But it's you have to wear a ton of hats when you're an independent artist. So I always like to give people who watch these things sort of what it feels like what's a day in the life of an artist?
Yeah.
Is every day unique, or is it a little bit of rinse and repeat in what it takes to try to?
That's a great question. For me, it has to be unique.
Yeah.
I have ADHD, so I'm not someone that loves structure. I resist it very strongly, but I also know that I need it to be able to be productive. So there's a lot of push-pull with that for me. My days I never want them to feel the same. I never want to wake up and do the exact same thing every day. That's one of the reasons I didn't last very long in a corporate job, because even though I was in an environment that was very different and stimulating and colorful and creative, I still was on this kind of grind schedule that did not fuel me.
Yeah.
It just took away. And I kind of have different sections of the day now where it's I know I gotta do a little bit of freelance work. I don't think most independent artists are just doing music. We're all it's the hats we wear for the music side, and then it's even more stuff on the outside of that. So make the money however you can make the money, and then dive into the creative work. And that's kind of how I approach the day-to-day.
Do you have anybody that helps you? Or is it on social media or the booking, or is it all?
So it's primarily me and Chip, who
okay.
I really lean on for a lot of stuff. And, we have a little LLC that we put everything through, and we're just kind of, but he's always, I've talked about this before. When I met him, he heard my songs, knew I needed a bassist, but then ended up being a boyfriend. And he's the reason I recorded an EP in the first place. I remember he sat me down. He was like, "These songs need to be recorded."
Thanks, Chip.
Thank you, Chip.
From all of us, yeah.
He loves the shout outs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Can I ask you a little bit about Richmond and the Richmond music scene? Obviously, you've been in it for quite a while. Any sort of general impressions of what it's like to be a musician in Richmond that you'd share?
Yeah, I really love this city, and I knew that I wanted to play music here and not LA or New York or Nashville or all the places they tell you have to go.
Yeah.
Because anyone, if you really think about it, you can clearly see we're positioned perfectly on the East Coast to be able to tour. We have a wide range of talent here. And artists that are coming out of Richmond and going beyond this. And I think that is always really exciting and stimulating for an industry. I'm really hoping to see some just return, or maybe there is no return, but I think the pandemic really shot a lot of the venues and stuff into a new kind of way of handling things. And I do miss a lot of the avenues that existed before. So it's definitely an interesting time, I think.
Do you have any venues you love playing here?
Yeah, I love the Camel. I remember the first time I tried to play an open mic was at the Camel.
Yeah.
And I didn't get there in time. I was late. And actually I'm friends with the guy that was running it now, but back then he was just a stranger to me. And I was so disappointed. I was like, this was my one shot. It really wasn't. I went to a different open mic the next night and it was fine. But I really pinned it all to the Camel. And I love that place. It feels like home.
How about, I always love asking, do you have any other, I know it's going to be tough to choose because you probably know so many, but do you have any other local artists that you really love?
Ooh, yeah, that is tough to choose.
If I could only limit you to 3.
Also,
okay, I know it could be 100.
I'll try to limit myself.
Yeah.
I'm friends with these people, so bias, but Dead Billionaires, Warren is a good friend of mine, and I genuinely love his music, always have. Caroline Vane is someone that I'm kind of blown away by every time I see her or hear her perform. Can I pick a third? Yes, I can. I just gotta narrow it down. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna stick with those 2 because I don't want to overwhelm.
I worried about asking because I also had the who's off the list. Trust me, she would have gone it longer. Yeah.
I know, right? I'm sorry, everyone.
I was gonna ask how do you find most of the artists supportive of each other, or is it competitive, or how would you describe it?
I think there's a little bit of both for sure. I definitely have my like crew of artists that I feel close to, and then there's lots of people that I wish I was closer to. I wish it didn't feel weird or competitive, but also the third would be Ricky Racky. I just realized that's who my third is, so shout out. I think there's something that kind of happens. I think it's more for women artists than men, but we can be competitive with each other in a way that is like almost programmed. It's not really realized, and it's because we're in this world and kind of society that makes us believe there's not enough room at the table. Because if you like look at it at face value, it doesn't look like there's enough room at the table for all of us. It looks like there's a token woman on every bill, or women's music is a different genre. I mean, people refer to like female music as a thing, as if the fact that I'm a woman makes me different than the men that write
the guitar
songs.
differently than
exactly.
someone else.
I think we unfortunately we end up in a pattern, and it can feel weird to be able to say like I support this other like artist who's also a woman, and to feel like you can be friends, and that's something I'm like constantly trying to find avenues to work around. And right now my thing is like we just gotta like socialize, not at shows. Like I love shows. I love going to shows. Of hanging out with people. I just don't love yelling over bands and like feeling like we're in an environment where you have to like network. Let's just hang out.
I was asking because obviously a lot of what this show is about is celebrating the venues and artists in Richmond, and so I have this deep desire for all the artists to I have a like 1 + 1 = 3 feel to this stuff, where like, hey, Richmond's music scene gets better when everybody supports each other, sort of thing. And particularly with someone who just released a single, there's a part of me that's like, artists of Richmond, please rally behind one of our own kind of feel that I'd love to see. And I was just kind of curious how it is from your side.
I think there's always room for growth there, and something that I'm very conscious of too.
Nice. Tell me about what's next for you. Whether it's, well, obviously you're probably gonna be very busy promoting.
I mean, trying to find some balance in that. I think I've got some shows coming up this week that I'm excited about, and doing a lot of songwritery things. So I've got some writers rounds and an opening slot at Richmond Music Hall. That'll just be me solo, and that'll be cool. And then really the big thing that I'm very excited about is my band and I are going to be playing River Rock on Sunday, which I believe is the same day they have the dog jumping. So like, awesome. We have a great day. But we're going to be on at 1:00 on Sunday at River Rock, and I'm pumped. We're crafting a really fun set for that.
Great. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think our city is lucky to have a talent like you.
Oh, thank you.
I truly mean it. And you're such an amazing singer and songwriter. And I love all the work that you've put out. But I really like the new song a lot. It's special.
Thank you so much.
And I can't wait to hear what you do next. And for everyone who is watching, please go listen to the new song. It's like support one of our own. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's a good clink.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Please like or subscribe to our podcast to be notified of each new episode, and follow us on all of our social media channels. If you are a local Richmond band or venue owner and you'd like to be featured on the show, please feel free to send us an email at smallvenuemusic@gmail.com. We'd love feedback on each episode, so please leave a comment to let us know how we're doing. Thanks again for listening.